Welcome back. In part one of this three-part series, I introduced you to the artist Kay Walking Stick, and I showed you how to create a diptych drawing in your sketchbook of your idea for a landscape painting. And now you have your choice of creating this diptych in either watercolor or chalk pastel. So in this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate for you how to create your diptych in watercolor paint. So let's get started. We began this lesson by reviewing our materials in the handouts in Google Classroom, and we planned our diptych painting. We selected an image, and you may have printed it out or you may have saved it on your iPad. We've drawn that image in our sketchbook, and now it's time to begin. I'm going to walk you through a demonstration of how to create this diptych in watercolor paints. So I've selected my two pieces of paper, and I've redrawn my landscape on the two pieces. Now in the classroom you'll use 9 by 12 pieces of watercolor paper. I cut mine down to size in the interest of time. Depending on your preference, you may want to paint one panel in one session and paint the other panel in another session. You may want to paint them both at the same time. It's entirely up to you, whatever your preference. There's no wrong way or right way to do this. For myself, I'm going to paint it at the same time so that I can keep some colors like the sky exactly the same. I want to reference the colors that I have in my image and mix those colors in my palette ahead of time before I begin. Work slowly. Watercolor is one of those patient mediums where you need to really layer and wait in between sessions for the first layer to dry. And certainly you want to wait a whole day before adding little detail. So I've already pre-mixed some colors. I get all of my colors wet with some clean water and the sponge, and then as you can see, I've tested my colors here on a scrap piece of watercolor paper. So I usually like to start with the sky, so I'm going to use my brush and my sky color that I've prepared over here, and I want to just test it again. Sometimes I might like to work wet into wet, and with sky, especially a sky that's as clear and consistently blue as that one is, I want to wet my surface first with clean water. And I'm just dipping my brush repeatedly and quickly into that water and spreading that water into the sky area. And then I'm going to load my brush with the blue that I'm going to use for my sky, and I'm going to start putting that in there. And you'll notice that wet into wet bleeds. So the blue is spreading out, it's called bleeding, into the wet area that I've prepared. Now, because my sky is wet, I can't really work on the mountain range here at this point. I need to wait for that to dry completely before I can go back in with some other paint. So I can work on things that are in the foreground. So I'm going to start working on this part of my mountain. And all I'm going to be doing here is filling in areas of wash. Wet on wet, wet on dry, to fill in as much as I can to get the underpainting in for this session. And then my last session will all be dry brush technique where I add all the little details. I'm going to let it dry and come back tomorrow and add some more layers and some more dry brush details. This is day 2 of my watercolor painting, my landscape diptych, and all of my first washes are dry, so now I can go in and add some of the greens for the pinyon pines and sage bushes that are scattered throughout, and then I can start adding some more darks and some more fine line details with a dry brush.